What up, ladies and gentlemen? The TheNightFox is taking on Neblime, looking for one win in this opening series. As far as I understand, these are some of his first PvP matches, and by the time you're watching this, you've already seen whether or not he's going to be doing some damage in the tournament that concluded over the weekend. That's right, he was in March Invitational B's initial signups, so I'm very happy to see if he has been able to improve since then. But let's take a look at how he all started, going back in time a little bit on Axiom. Once again, he's going to be in the top right. In the last game, he was in the bottom left, but otherwise he's back into familiar territory. Neblime once again being Zerg. I thought maybe we would see Neblime's Terran in play here, but it looks like we are going to be a ZVZ yet again for this particular matchup. And hey, I'm excited. I mean, if you look at the track of the last two matches, the first one, we obviously had him kind of capitulate a little bit early, and the second one was a lot better, a lot longer, and had a bit more back and forth, a bit more holdout, and ultimately collapsed to the macro machine. However, this time around, we're going to see whether or not the TheNightFox can do some more damage. He's already getting Neblime typing a little bit, but that's all right because he was always planning on going for the pool. I wasn't fully tracking what they were saying, but it sounds like they were talking about Zorkas in the context of the initial batch and how you would maybe use them for a timing attack or something like that. Neblime probably thinks that they're an all-in or something, just if I had to speculate based on what I know of his play. So, this Droleth will be heading on out. Once again, sponsor B. I'm actually going to be fixing the pixels on that before the tournament goes live. So I'm recording this. Here's a mindfuck. I'm recording this a day before the tournament that the TheNightFox signed up to play in, and yet this game was played like many days before I'm recording it now. And anyway, that is just silly. So we're time traveling here, but yeah, there's some hot pixels on this graphic that I obviously need to fix up before the tournament, so it looks nice and pristine. So you're actually being time traveled backwards to see that. Nonetheless, we've got a macro hatch in the base, pool coming down late. I don't think that Neblime will be able to exactly punish this play, but he does have two pairs of quasis about to hatch. It looks like the first one's already up. Second one, oh, actually no, it's actually only the one pair that's out right now. So there we go. Right? No, he canceled it. I swear I saw a 2 over there. Already off to a bewildering start, but that's okay. With the macro hatch in here, it looks like Neblime is just going to establish a more defensive barricade. Not interested in moving across the map. Knows that he doesn't necessarily want to be able to get any damage done. Honestly, I'm actually not sure. Maybe you would still move the quasis across the map, if for no other reason than to like block an easy third hatch going down at the natural. Kind of force your opponent to at least go through the motions of building units. Because maybe he's going to anyway, and it looks like he will start at 3 pairs of quasis immediately. But I could see a world where, I mean, he had about 300 minerals. He could have just gone for his expansion, and there was no contest. You have to assume there's a contest coming, although I guess the TheNightFox doesn't have to assume that because he didn't even scout this game. So he doesn't even know if that it was pool first or anything like that. But it's one of those things that makes you think. But there will be a macro advantage for the time being here for the TheNightFox going for a lot of military units. He's gone for 4 Zeths and 6 quasis. That's 2 pairs of Zeths, 3 pairs of quasis. They are both 2 per egg. And it looks like on the other end, we've got 8 quasis, make it 10 now, and an Ovaleth. So we might see a drop. I'm not really sure what else that would be for. I mean, maybe we'll see a Kagran get started at some point. That'll reveal Neblime's true intentions with that initial Ovaleth. But there's no reason why you can't go for the drop after. Still in the choke over here are Neblime's quasis, and same is actually true for the TheNightFox as he takes his natural. Still keeping up ahead in terms of the hatch count of his opponent. So I do like to see that he's taking the timing a little bit more seriously as far as his build order goes, keeping the money low. I've noticed that. So the Avaleth has nothing in it. That's an interesting situation to be in. The Hydroth then coming down now. A little bit of Espene was harvested by the TheNightFox, but he's pulled off on that. He's going to go just off of the den. You can get 4 Hydras with this amount of gas and the rest into Izira cores. Maybe that could even be like some sort of timing play. Obviously, in the last couple of matches, the TheNightFox has thoroughly explored the tier 1 tech tree for Zerg, and he knows that his opponent, being Zerg, is going to offer him some valid situations here for him to think about as far as, like, you know, what strategies does Neblime want to do. And it's kind of interesting because only now are we seeing that third hatch. I gotta say, just in terms of the macro game, I think that TheNightFox is doing a better job. He will be even in workers or thereabouts after all of the ones that he's coming up with are going to hatch. You know, you have to give Neblime a little bit of an edge because he's been harvesting for a bit longer. He will obviously have the scout off, so Neblime has the intel the NightFox doesn't know that he's marginally ahead, but that's, you know, that's a good sign, right? That's something that makes you think, oh, wow, that's actually really neat. Because the NightFox, up until this point, you would expect him to not be the most competitive player since he's brand new. But the fact that he's already able to keep up, it sounds like a small thing, but keeping up with the macro in the project that you're very, very new to is pretty good. Now, I think the Circuit will finish before any triggers get pulled as far as the enemy is concerned. So I don't really think that there's going to be much break potential here, but at the very least, he can put on some pressure and put on a contain and take a third base behind it, or maybe just spike up in terms of hatches. We already have the fourth hatch coming over here for Neblime. You can't say the same thing about the NightFox's situation. He has started to harvest Vespene again. That's a critical moment. Now here comes an attempted drop, and I thought I saw some military units kind of scramble around, but it looks like they've all pulled away. That being said, there are some Hydras hatching over here, maybe a Hydra specifically, and so I think he has heard that. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and pull the whole boys. And I do like his defensive positioning, you know. He's going to go ahead and catch this while the Avaleth is full of other quasis. So he can't really do too much there. However, he is streaming in some units over here. And this could be a pretty messy situation, especially since these quasis are going to get the unload off. And I'm not sure that the NightFox realized it. He's pulled all of the workers in the natural, but he's losing, you know, some action over here. He's actually pulled his workers to the far field, and now he's going to go ahead and issue the attack order move. Still no Circuit remorph over here. There's a bit of a missed opportunity, but considering the chaotic situation as more and more of Neblime's Tier 1 Zerg are streaming on in, only now getting the remorph in, that's all right, that's acceptable, but dropping down below his opponent's worker count, and that looks like, you know, with Neblime having the production advantage, that should actually favor him. However, Neblime does not have the tech advantage, right? Hydra's coming out, they do deal pretty well with what Neblime has on offer, and you can see these units streaming in. This is actually a critical situation for Neblime. He does need to consolidate and respect the strength of his opponent. He can still go ahead and drop 6 Zeths out, but there's a Circuit on the way. So, like, there's kind of a timing on this, and it looks like maybe somehow, you know, that's just enough for the NightFox to realize, okay, never mind, I gotta walk out of here. He's not gonna go ahead and cancel that. His Hydra's Den does need to be defended, but he's up on workers yet again ever so slightly, and his opponent will have plenty of time. So nothing critical really over here. I mean, he does need to resaturate his main. Since he's oversaturated on minerals over here, could definitely use resaturation over there. And maybe get some more static defense set up if he does want to go for an attack. But the Avaleth proving really, really useful. All of the units that you make out of the Hydrath Den are going to be 2 transport space. So you can't put as many of them in the 6 transport space providing Avaleth. So you can put 6 units into this if they're Zats or Quasis or Vorvs. But if they're Hydras, Bactyls, Iziracors, you're not going to be able to do the same thing, right? So putting down a second Circuit, patrolling around here. The Hydras are going to be really, really good backline support versus Quasis. But I think at this current situation, he does need to worry a little bit about a commitment. And yeah, I mean, there's not really that many Zets. Some of them getting caught up on here by the Quasis. I don't know if there's like a hold position command there or something, but more of them streaming in through the choke. I think this will be held just fine. You know, the worker's not exactly getting too finagled here. Maybe a little bit more of a pincer, and he can try to focus down 1 or 2 workers here and there. One of them will indeed die. But I think at this point, you know, Neblime's trading ever so slightly, but he hasn't actually taken an expansion, right? He doesn't have the 3rd on the way. He's not got enough money, really. He's actually going hard into Hydra himself now. And it looks like the NightFox doesn't necessarily realize, but he could definitely do some damage over here. Just looking at the full-blown replay of this situation and seeing the ebb and flow, maybe he doesn't realize that Neblime only recently started to do a round of workers, and that's why he has no military right now, compared to what is currently available for our boy, the Fox. And I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, the development of this player, I would say, most of all. Had a chat with him, and he's like our boy Newt, yeah, rolling with the nighttime schedule, the 3rd shift. I guess Alexander's also a 3rd shifter now as well, worth pointing out. Oh, he narrowly revealed that Zethakor, but then the Hydra wandered around. I don't actually know that the NightFox is aware of this mechanic, but when you stand on top of burrowed units, you reveal them. Iziracor are going to go ahead and engage that Avaleth. Okay, macro coming out here from the NightFox, but obviously getting the 3rd base up and running is the biggest deal. He is going to be now finally even with his opponent on production. No gas being saved from either player. Here's a pretty big Hydra committal. The Iziracor's in the back line, not exactly helping so much. Here comes an attack move that's going to clear that Zeth spy, and this is too much for Neblime to really focus down. But, you know, contesting things, forcing more military expenditures, maybe thinking about more Iziracors, which could have definitely made that fight even more powerful. Yeah, honestly, the TheNightFox has power right now. It's just, can he actuate it, right? And Neblime, seeing that third base is on the way, he's going to go down and throw down his 5th hatch, as well as a 6th one. So yeah, going up to 6 hatches on 3 bases, not a bad shout for Neblime. We've got a Spraith in the middle of nowhere. That's just going to be anti-drop or whatever, stopping the Ovolith from flying over for free. Would love to see more macro hatches, as the money is starting to get a little bit out of control for the TheNightFox. He is queuing up a lot of workers. He's obviously going to try to saturate this base. But generally speaking, you don't have to have exactly the same what would you say, worker count as your opponent in a mirror matchup. If you have different tech, if you have different strengths on the map, if you have different controls, little bits and pieces here and there, like it's not required that you have exactly the same level of economic output, because you can offset that in different ways. But what I do think would be great for the situation of what the TheNightFox is in is if he just added a little bit more production, because the worker count is a little bit secondary to that, but we do need to see more units out of him. And so he is going to go ahead and add a hatch at his natural, or his main ramp, and that will only put him 1 hatch behind his opponent, because we don't see any others coming. We do see the ski-backed Scab coming. I'm not sure if that's going to be for Backdolls or Skiths. You could absolutely go Skiths if you wanted to spend a lot of Vespene on it. If you wanted to spend, same amounts of Vespene maybe, but for a more, like, you could say, consistent output in terms of how much damage you'll be able to do to your opponent. If you want the ability to select when the engagements go live, that can definitely be a move. Now here's where we need to see Neblime's decision making. Looks like he's going to cancel the attack immediately. Wants to pull away from those circuits that are going to form over here, so that those are not contributing positively to the fight. But a great concave, kind of from both players. Not often you see something like this, especially if you're coming from other versions of Starcraft, a Hydra v Hydra fight. The Azir Core is not really able to get gap closed, and now the circuits are indeed fully here. Now, they do get full damage dealt to them by Hydras, since they do have 3 armor penetration. So you got to remember that they are much better at dealing with those than the Quasilisk is. And so cracking open defensive positions, that is the Hydra's bread and butter. You just need something to peel for it, and when the front line goes away, you can kind of think about it like Zealot peeling for Drakadin, or I guess Dragoon in StarCraft 1, Protoss. It's kind of a similar mechanic to that, but obviously, a little bit maybe less cost efficient. And you can see, instead of refilling on Hydras, he's gone for Quasis, and he's also allowed that gas to build up so that he can go for his tier 2. That's what Neblime is thinking. The TheNightFox, on the other hand, is queuing up 8 Skithra cores. They will hatch and presumably instantiate some kind of counterattack. Maybe they can hug the bottom right, where he didn't see an Ovolith recently, and try to swoop on in and clear the worker count. But Kagrints are coming up online. We're probably going to see them turn into Spraiths, indeed. So there's going to be one of those in the main, and the second one just started in the natural. I'm looking out for where the next bit of engagements go. And if you don't want to attack into this little choke here, you don't want to be caught moving in translation between this ramp and this ramp, because if you do that, you suffer the cliff advantage, or disadvantage, as it were. So these 8 Skithra cores are going to move across the map and head on down back. It looks like Neblime just wants to play his tech advantage. He thinks that maybe he has a little bit of a tech advantage. His Ovolith has been getting plenty of good intel, and seeing that, when you see the ski backed, you probably expect, hey, I don't need to worry too much about, my enemy going for something other than, the patented Skithrock attack, or maybe he's going to go Backdolls, which would help really, really well versus things like Quasilisk spam. But, either way, the threat is not going to come from tier 2. So I have a tech advantage. I'm going to see what I can do with that. Nice random units scattered around here, giving a little bit of intel to Neblime, knowing that the attack is coming. However, we're only halfway done with the Matraval Nest, so it does feel like the TheNightFox has a window of opportunity to express his tech advantage. The double Spraith is going to occupy the workers' harassments here a little bit. We'll keep the tabs on how many Skithra cores are over there, but the worker count is indeed way out of hand in favor of Neblime, despite that worker harassment. And it looks like, regardless of the way that works, the Burrow comes in now. The attack over here is favoring Neblime as well, with the closer reinforcement point, but the Azir cores are doing a good job thinning the initial herd, occupying a lot of the shots here. And yeah, we are going to see an overwhelming victory in terms of the Hydra count for the orange Zerg. Now, the biggest problem here is that these defenses are going to get into higher tier, higher caliber. Hey, this Excision might end up going down. That's not a bad shout if you can do that with the Skits, because obviously that is going to stop it from your enemy from getting access to extra tech. But we got Convolisks on the way. We still have, plenty of tech advantage in favor of Neblime. And even though 3 o'clock is being taken right now, it does feel to me like this is a rough situation to sell. And you spent your 800 Not gas, it's not 800 gas for 8 Skither cores, but you spent your gas on the Skiths. That could have been gas towards tier 2. Now you're going to get your tier 2 after your opponent's already actuated his and built those units. The Skith flying around just to get more scouting off of the situation. And yes, okay, you delayed the gas mining a little bit. That is painful, but at this point, Neblime has double your worker count, and this is where the screws get turned, it feels like. Also, getting some workers sent out over here to harvest minerals from the treasury. Not a bad shout. You can afford a couple extra Hatcherosks if you can fully saturate these sorts of things. Hydra's scoping on out, seeing what's up. Now, this is a little bit of an awkward attack into the TheNightFox's territory here, because the Azira cores should be on the front line. Instead, it's going to be the Convolusks on the front, and that will absolutely let Focus Fires reign supreme. We've got 3 more in the back. This is where the Convolusks are really going to shine. But at this point, I think the front line's already capitalized upon, and the TheNightFox is going to go ahead and get to tier 2 behind this. So as long as he can keep some units alive in this situation, and essentially have some sort of powerful force over here in his favor, the Convolusks not working out at all for Neblime. Even if he positioned himself a little bit better, it feels like maybe they're not the exact best choice here. And you know, you practice ZVZ, you figure those kinds of things out. Not too many Zergs can push Neblime, so here's the TheNightFox as a practice partner for him. Gonna go ahead and collapse upon this base yet again with the reinforcement Izira cores, but that's gonna be it for the initial wave. So this attack needs to get some damage dealt. Only 1 Scorchwrath, so that will eventually fall, but not great focus fire onto that. And I think all the Convolusks are dead, but he's not even gonna fully kill any of these Cesians, right? They can just remorph. The Matroleth also not being fully focused down there, and that just means that you can get some Vilgora cores out, or sorry, Vilgoleths out, and that will obviously provide you plenty of power there. 3 o'clock is up and running for the TheNightFox, but he's undersaturated at all of his bases. He has no idea that this neutral base is being harvested from by his opponent. A nice spattering of additional units are still over here, still surviving. They are going to need to go ahead and flank this 3 o'clock attack force, I think, or maybe they can come down and backstab 12 or 6 o'clock while that's happening. But yeah, we're entering into a territory where even though our players are on even bases, the number of units that you've got for one player is going to start to really dwarf the other, just based on the economy being so good with the capped geysers and all of the extra production, all of the extra workers feeding that war machine. Now with the Vilgoleths consistently producing and not being focused down, these Hydras are indeed going to get melted. We're even going to see some Infestation come in, and Infestation works versus Zerg. It just converts them into units with 1 extra armor but less movement speed, less vision range. So they kind of become almost like zombified in a way. Rilla Rocor's eating up all of the workers over here. The TheNightFox can scantily afford to lose any of those workers. He's really quite low in that respect. Now, the Brutespawn are going to end up timing out pretty soon here, so I wouldn't worry too much about those. The Matroleth actually refreshes their battle timer, so as long as they're near one of those or the Vilgoleth, then they're actually in an okay spot. But there we go. Getting a couple of free kills, it's always nice because these units they're not free. I mean, they cost opportunity or whatever and energy, but they're free in terms of resources. So as long as you get your focus out there, you're pretty good. The opportunity cost comparatively low. And so getting those kills there are pretty solid. Now, the Vilgora cores are pretty solid too. This unit has been revised since maybe the last time people have seen it. Now, when it takes damage, it will release a mini Carapace swarm, similar to the Istrathaleth Defiler spell. So you can think of it like that. We will see it in action over here. And when that happens, it absorbs up to 100 damage, which is not a lot, but it's still something. And that ability can happen as long as the Vilgora core receives damage while not underneath a swarm. So as long as it's on open ground, not being protected by a swarm of its own or a swarm from an Istrathaleth, then it's actually going to be able to create a small one in a smaller sphere. The Quaslusk tickling the Skither cores, calling out that the air attack is imminent. And I'm not sure what Neblime wants to do in this situation. He is going to go for a Muthrock Spire back at home. So, Mutath Spire back at home, that's not a bad shout. We've got lots of various Cesians. I'm not sure exactly what those are for, but there's a big blob in the middle of the map right now. And the Skits are going to go ahead and see if they can get a little bit of DPS done here. Ignoring the Izira cores as best they can because they need to collapse upon this. But where's the ground force? It was responding to an attack to 3 o'clock. Now the main choke is going to be taken care of. And these are not enhanced defenses. So eventually, even though there's not that much DPS with this army, it does feel like this is destined to get some good damage dealt and eventually get rid of some of these units, some of these bases. The Quaslusks in particular are going to have such a hard time dealing with this force. But I think the Skithra cores might be okay. It's just that the Izira cores do okay versus them too. So it's kind of like the battle of the okays. The Hydras are here to lay out some good DPS. Workers have started to die thanks to the Zethra cores. Now they're going to stand and fight if they can. Spraith doing okay as well. Not exactly dead just yet. But the Vilgor cores take so long to kill because of their Carapace Swarm. And, you know, that you can see in that situation, it actually held on for a surprisingly long amount of time. So there you have it. Counterattack coming in from the left-hand side. We've got plenty of, you know, units here for Neblime, and this is the unstoppable force kind of situation that you find yourself in, taking the bottom right location. Double Matroleth swooping on in to see if they can, you know, cast more abilities. They'll infest the Seasoned if he's allowing it. There it is. Turned over to the enemy force. By the way, if that regresses, you can turn it into a Larvosk and start using it for yourself. That's a pretty good deal. Oh my god, focusing down the Iral Iris. Well, it'll be BM, but also fitting if that if the infested tech. Dude, who would have ever guessed something like that could have happened? But actually, I'm not sure it will. Is it gonna die? Oh my god! Well, it still technically had the debuff for a short period of time, so it still technically got it at the very end. But, you know, again, it was going to die no matter what. In that case, it's actually probably better to use the Skits to kill the Zeths, if you can. Since without it, then they can't kill the tech structure. But, you know, that's salt in the wound, right? Now you're back to where you started this whole ordeal. Now you got to kill your own, you know, Iral Iris. And, yeah, he might not even be aware that that's a mechanic. Gone are the days where you can only infest measly Terran command centers. Yeah, it being in melee range is the main thing. But it's also a little bit jank right now, and ideally we would fix the jank part, but, you know, keep the unit balanced around maybe low movement speed and vulnerability. Oh, here we go. More Matroleths, speaking of. Skithra cores arriving to see if they can see those off, but there's enough Hydras and Convolusks here that I don't think they're going to be much of a yeah, much of a candle holder in this situation. Oh, look at that! The infested Hatcherosk at the very end. And maybe that's even going to be the tooltip. Who knows? And the TheNightFox getting some much needed tier 2 practice. So he gets some good value out of that. With GG called, we can go ahead and update the overlay. It was a Neblime clean sweep, but again, I really want us to drive home that, in my opinion, the TheNightFox had a very nice debut here. Versus Protoss, I really thought, versus Protoss, I really thought he could do something. I really thought he was maybe pretty close in a couple of situations to killing his opponent in the early tiers, and the Macro Machine is where he fell apart. So the fact that he then lasted as long as he did versus a lot of the Zerg strategies that Neblime was going to go ahead and use, pretty solid, pretty commendable. I'm a fan. I hope you guys are a fan too. And now, for the future games, we'll get back to a series between Neblime and Hamster. Hope you guys are excited about that. And then we'll be rolling on into games that were played in the post-world, you know, outside of the tournament environment. Hope you guys are just as excited as I am about the future of this goddamn cool project. I'll see you guys very soon.